activation of the station's hidden relay, the Citadel transformed from the heart of galactic society into the very instrument of its doom. The Reapers, laying in wait in dark space, pour through, first eliminating the leadership of the Citadel, causing chaos and disarray, and then with methodical precision, they would spread out, ensuring the extinction of spacefaring civilizations, completing yet another cycle of harvest. The trap was as effective as it was merciless. When the Citadel falls, the infrastructure that maintains interstellar communication and travel via Mass Effect relays crumbles, casting star systems into isolation, and the splintering effect is just as psychological as it is physical. Civilizations are thrust into the dark, unable to communicate with or aid their neighbors. But it's not just this tactical advantage. The Citadel's vast databanks, a comprehensive record of every development, movement, and population in the galaxy, become invaluable assets to these invaders. With this information, Reapers systematically hunted down populated worlds. As they advance, they employ both brutal force and insidious manipulation. Some populations face direct harvesting, the organic essence distilled to serve the Reapers' incomprehensible designs. Others, through a malevolent process called indoctrination, become enslaved, their minds warped to serve the Reapers' whims. This two-pronged approach ensures complete dominance over their prey. Upon completing their harvest, the Reapers are meticulous in erasing all evidence of their existence and actions. They remove any hint, any whisper of their presence from galactic records.
Set the charges, destroy the entire colony, leave no evidence that we were here.
This purposeful erasure ensures that the next burgeoning civilization remains ignorant of the looming threat, and are trapped in the same cycle of rise and fall. With their grim task accomplished, the Reapers retreat into the abysmal depths of dark space, outside the Milky Way galaxy, silent and waiting for the next cycle to begin. This harvesting process, the concept of processing sentient beings itself, is one of the Reapers' most horrifying aspects. Through their husks, which are the husked remains of former individuals transformed into mindless drones, the Reapers administer a preliminary assessment of their captives. The husk sensory systems, believed to be a combination of olfactory and chemical detection mechanisms, quickly segregate victims based on their genetic viability. Those deemed unfit for processing face a fate as harrowing, transformation into husks themselves. This ensures that no captured individual goes to waste. They either contribute to the construction of a new Reaper or bolster the ground forces subduing the planet. This process itself is clinical, with the Reapers taking every measure to prevent panic or revolt. Reaper processors, the grim facilities where the organic beings are converted into raw material, are designed with dehumanizing efficiency in mind. The pods, reminiscent of coffins, isolate individuals, ensuring that they neither hear nor see the horrors befalling others. Inside, Reaper nanotechnology breaks down the living tissue, rendering once sentient beings into a viscous genetic slurry. But the Reapers don't merely seek to harvest organic material, they are also capturing consciousness. The culmination of these countless harvested souls becomes the foundation of a new Reaper's consciousness. It's a chilling form of immortality, a multitude of minds, experiences, memories, and identities, all coalesced into a singular, malevolent purpose. The most significant Reaper construction sites are the Citadel, the peaceful, celestial Eden turned into a vast factory of doom, and the Collector base deep in the galactic core. The latter was a revelation that further cemented the Reaper's reach and planning, utilizing agents like the Collectors, themselves remnants of the Protheans from a previous cycle, to further their dark designs. Each cycle, a primary race, typically the most advanced or widespread species, is chosen to form the foundational structure for a new Reaper Citadel ship. These monumental leviathans are a testament to the might and grandeur of the Reapers. Parallel to this, other harvested species are integrated into the creation of Destroyer-class Reapers. Smaller and less iconic than the capital ships, these destroyers still serve as a formidable force in the Reaper's arsenal, each a monument to a captured species. The criteria for the selection of species for destroyers, as opposed to capital ships, remains one of the many unknowns of Reaper strategy, and there are many types by the time humanity is in the cycle. And then there is Harbinger. As the progenitor of all Reapers, Harbinger stands distinct in both design and capacity, towering above its counterparts. It's easily identifiable by its unique architecture. While most Reapers resemble grotesque sea creatures with their tentacle-like appendages, Harbinger's anatomy is more streamlined and robust, only possessing 4 main legs. Its numerous luminescent eyes are likely advanced sensors and communication channels. Alliance intelligence reports surmise that Harbinger might possess unparalleled computational capabilities and weapons that outclass even the formidable capital ships. Given its stature as the oldest and possibly the most advanced Reaper, its precise abilities remain as one of the most haunting enigmas of the Reaper fleet. Their capital ships, often referred to as the Sovereign class, after the Reaper named Sovereign that first revealed the true nature of the Reapers to the galaxy, they are imposing behemoths that stretch for 2 kilometers. They are distinguished by their colossal size, insectoid appearance, and the devastating armaments they bring to the battlefield. Central to their offensive capabilities is the spine-anchored magneto-hydrodynamic cannon, a weapon that can unleash energy outputs ranging from 132 to 450 kilotons of TNT. To put this in perspective, even the Everest-class Alliance Dreadnought, one of the most formidable warships in the galaxy, houses a main gun that pales in comparison. Any vessel on the receiving end of this cannon, including the previously mentioned Dreadnoughts, is almost guaranteed annihilation. However, the firepower of the capital ships doesn't end here. Integrated into their appendage-like tendrils are auxiliary cannons with impressive destructive capabilities. These can slice through most ships' defenses with ease, delivering rapid, fatal blows. And these Reapers have defensive mechanisms comparable to a Guardian point defense system used by many organic civilizations. These are designed to intercept and destroy incoming projectiles, ensuring the Reaper's safety in the heat of battle. For combat against smaller, more agile threats like fighters, the capital ships deploy Oculus drones in massive numbers. These drones swarm enemy craft, overwhelming them with sheer numbers and firepower. Perhaps even more daunting than their offensive might is the resilience of these capital ships. Constructed with alien materials and fortified by advanced barriers, they can withstand the concentrated firepower of multiple dreadnoughts simultaneously. It often requires a relentless barrage from at least 4 dreadnoughts to even begin depleting their kinetic barriers. Destroyers are the nimble cousins of the much larger capital ships. Destroyers play a pivotal role in the Reaper invasion strategy. Their more compact size belies a deadly combination of firepower, agility, and adaptability, making them a formidable adversary both in space and on the ground. In space combat, destroyers serve as escorts to the massive capital ships. Their rapid-fire beam weapons, while not overwhelmingly destructive as those of their larger counterparts, are nevertheless lethal to most ships of the Citadel races, able to swiftly focus on and obliterate frigates and other smaller targets. Destroyers ensure that the biggest Reapers can concentrate on the major threats without being swarmed by agile, smaller adversaries. However, it's on a planet's surface that the true versatility of the Destroyer class shines. With the ability to transform into heavy walkers, they can traverse various terrains, supporting Husk units and other Reaper ground forces. And once in walker mode, their frontal plates can unfold, revealing a powerful beam weapon that can decimate ground-based resistance, whether you're infantry or armored units. These transformed destroyers loom like nightmarish titans on the battlefield, providing not just firepower, but a psychological edge against their foes. Despite their strengths, destroyers are not invulnerable. Their smaller size means they don't have the same level of protection barriers as capital ships. While ground-based fire from tanks and artillery might not do much to scratch them, in space they are notably more vulnerable. Cruiser-class ships, if they get a bead on a destroyer and concentrate their fire, can pose a significant threat, proving that even these agents of galactic annihilation have their weak points. The troop transports, though of course less imposing, serve an equally vital function in the Reaper's methodical process of conquest and harvest. Their primary role is as logistical vessels, moving large numbers of husks, the twisted remnants of conquered civilizations, to other planets that have yet to fall to Reaper control. These husks are then used to suppress resistance and capture further victims for processing. Ranging in size from 200 meters to a kilometer, these vessels have an elongated and somewhat cylindrical appearance, resembling the chrysalis of an insect. This design allows them to accommodate vast numbers of husks within their hulls, each one stored in suspended animation until they are released upon unsuspecting worlds. It's a terrifying sight for any ground forces to witness a troop transport descend from the skies, knowing that it heralds the arrival of countless husks, each one a grotesque testament to the Reaper's power to corrupt and manipulate organic life. In addition to their troop-carrying capability, troop transports are also equipped with specialized pods designed to secure and transport individuals who have been designated for harvesting. These captives are kept in stasis during transit, ensuring they remain docile and easy to manage until they reach the Reaper processing centers, where they will meet their grim fate. Notably, unlike other Reaper vessels, the troop transports are not sentient entities. Instead, they operate under the direct control and guidance of the larger sentient Reapers. This likely simplifies their operations, as their primary functions are straightforward and don't require strategic thinking or autonomous decision-making that might be demanded of a capital ship. Nevertheless, their presence on the battlefield is a reminder of the Reaper's efficiency and the cold, calculated approach They could snowball their conquest on certain worlds to the whole solar system and eventually the galaxy, conducting their grim harvest. The processor ships are among the most horrifying symbols of Reaper invasion. Unlike combat ships that wreak havoc with their formidable weaponry, processors bring a different kind of terror. They serve as the mobile harvesting centers, where captured individuals from various species are processed into raw genetic material that fuels the construction of the new Reapers. With a design reminiscent of a colossal, dark chrysalis, processors hover ominously over populated areas, casting shadows of dread below. Their outer shell is punctuated by various apertures and docking structures, allowing them to efficiently receive the continuous influx of victims, often herded en masse by husks and other indoctrinated beings. Once inside, individuals are funneled into processing chambers, where, through a gruesome procedure, they are broken down by Reaper nanites into a liquid genetic soup. The efficiency of the processors is truly nightmarish. Within their cavernous interiors, countless individuals are processed simultaneously, their entities and memories boiled down together, reduced to their most basic genetic components. And this slush is either stored for future use or transported to Reaper construction sites, where it is channeled into the Reaper for that species. Though they are sentient machines, the Reapers have interiors that can accommodate organic beings. While the exact nature of this inner space is not fully understood, it is believed that these chambers serve several purposes. One is to transport their indoctrinated servants across vast distances. Another is to provide a controlled environment where these thralls can maintain and service the Reapers, performing tasks that the massive machines might find too intricate or delicate. The eerie corridors within the Reapers might also serve as chambers of horror, where indoctrination and other unspeakable processes take place. Supporting these immense capabilities is the Element Zero core. It is surmised that this core, vast in size and potential, is what powers the Reaper's Mass Effect fields. These fields, given the massive size of the Reapers, would need to be staggeringly powerful, especially if the Reaper were to land on a planet. The Element Zero core would allow it to manipulate its mass and gravitational effects around it, enabling it to move with an eerie grace despite its colossal size. But for all the awe-inspiring power and advanced tech, the Reapers are not gods. They're machines with vulnerabilities. Their long hibernation in dark space, while a strategic move, was also a necessity. And in this dormant state, they are more vulnerable to being detected and potentially destroyed. Reapers recognize each other through a complex identity friend-foe system, ensuring smooth coordination among their massive fleet during invasions. Unlike typical IFF systems employed by organic civilizations, the Reaper system delves deeper, identifying not just a transponder signal, but somehow a metaphysical plane and can detect a Reaper's consciousness. This complexity ensures that the theft of an IFF by a rival species would not only be ineffective, but detrimental.
Reaper IFF activated. Signal acknowledged.
Stolen Reaper IFF doesn't just come with the identification protocol, it comes loaded with a powerful and insidious virus, designed to incapacitate and corrupt the systems it's integrated into, rendering any stolen tech not only useless, ensuring that they could eliminate anyone hoping to impersonate them. The Reapers don't limit their hacking prowess to just defensive mechanisms. Their arsenal includes computer viruses of varying complexities, employed to bend other synthetic beings to their will. While the Reapers have a primary focus on harvesting organic life, they recognize the potential threat or utility of synthetics. Those that don't willingly serve the Reapers are subverted using these viruses. However, it's essential to note that Reaper software isn't infallible. In instances, highly advanced AIs, when unshackled from restrictions, have resisted and even counteracted Reaper viral attacks. Further showcasing their technological might is the Reaper's expertise in microtechnology, notably with the nanites they employ. These microscopic marvels transform living, organic beings into husks, the zombified foot soldiers of the Reaper invasion. By implanting nanites through structures known as Dragon's Teeth, they effectively repurpose the galaxy's inhabitants as frontline infantry. Designed to instill terror or wreak havoc, the Reapers continually enhance their husk forces, either by reinforcing them with biotic barriers through barrier engines, or by possessing them to elevate their combat abilities. Beyond the integral weaponry built into some husks, Reapers have been known to arm them with devastating handheld devices, like the Reaper Black Star, adding to their already fearsome arsenal. However, as history always shows, when there's a will, there's a way. Despite the clear technological superiority of the Reapers, the galaxy's civilizations and their persistent resilience have scavenged, studied, and reverse-engineered Reaper tech where they could. Through these endeavors, technologies like the powerful Thanix cannon, the Thanix missile, the M597 Ladin, and even elements of the synthetic intelligence EDI were all derived in part from Reaper tech, and serve as inspiration that the Reapers could be overcome. Sheer efficiency with which the Reapers conduct their harvest is truly terrifying. The statistics from Earth's invasion paint a grim picture of relentless genocide, with hundreds of processors functioning simultaneously and millions being processed daily. Entire planets can be stripped of life within mere decades. In instances where direct harvesting becomes untenable or poses certain risks, the Reapers have shown adaptability by employing the Collectors. These unfortunate beings, once the proud and advanced Protheans, have been twisted and reshaped into unrecognizable forms to serve the Reapers' bidding.
Don't just use the internet, unleash it with ultra-fast speeds.
Well, that's a nice
And with
start.
Price for Life Internet, you can keep your internet service monthly rate for as long as you keep your plan. Quantum Fiber. It's your world unleashed.
Transformative education is important for me because
damn it.
I think deep down, I've always enjoyed being a disruptor. Disrupting is sometimes important.
These are no longer Prothean, Shepard. Their genes show distinct signs of extensive genetic rewrite. The Reapers have repurposed them to suit their needs.
As a direct tool of the Reapers, the Collectors raided human colonies, gathering specimens for a grotesque endeavor, the construction of a human-based Reaper. The use of such intermediaries, while rare, shows the depth of the Reapers' contingency plans and their unyielding commitment to the harvest. A mere 50 millennia prior to the prevailing galactic age, the Protheans, who were the predominant cosmic beings then, faced the Reapers' onslaught. And despite their efforts, much like their countless predecessors, the Protheans succumbed to the overpowering force and cunning strategies of the Reapers. Later, the galaxy would come to find that these cycles stretched back for millions of years by the time humans were a spacefaring race. The Reapers did not harvest all life in the galaxy, only the most advanced, allowing the next generation to have room to evolve, become the next spacefaring race, and create their own AIs, all without the oppressive masters of the Leviathans. The Reapers saw this harvesting and incorporation into new synthesized Reaper bodies as a sort of graduation, a reward for a species making such commendable progress.
We are the harbinger of their perfection. Prepare these humans for ascension.
The Reapers ensured that no one species ever conquered and dominated the Milky Way again, like their own creators had done. And what was seen as benevolent was how these gods seemed to lay the breadcrumbs towards progress. Many artifacts from the previous generation of advanced beings were placed near the evolving up-and-comers. The Asari homeworld Thessia had relics that would provide a boost in their civilization, and likewise Mars would contain a relic from the Protheans that acted like a test for the human species. First to see if they were advanced enough to get to Mars, then to find the relic, and then to decipher and apply its data, leading humanity to the mass relay orbiting Pluto, which eventually led to the Citadel and inclusion in the galactic community of other alien races. Luckily for us, in this great Reaper Yuga, a few Protheans had managed to escape the Reaper's onslaught in the previous age, thanks to a group of elite scientists on Eos who took refuge in stasis. When they emerged decades later, their intensive research revealed the mechanisms behind their civilization's downfall, and they discerned a way to potentially break the Reaper cycle. Their strategy was rooted in a change observed in the Keepers. These creatures had evolved to respond only to signals emitted directly from the Citadel. Traditionally, the Reaper Vanguard would signal the Citadel, prompting the Keepers to activate the station's mass relay and commence the Reaper invasion. Recognizing this, the Prothean experts journeyed to the Citadel using a re-engineered prototype mass relay.
Not much.
There they tweaked the Citadel's signaling process, thereby disrupting the Reaper invasion protocol. Although triumphant in this endeavor, the Protheans faced an inescapable fate. Due to dwindling numbers and other challenges, they faded into obscurity, leaving their mark as a silent guardian for future species.
2 more levels.
Millennia later, in our age, Sovereign, the colossal dreadnought dwarfing all known vessels, was first found by Eden Haddad's team in the Perseus Vale, and was later studied by Dr. Xu Qian. Notes from the Doctor, stolen in
just chillin'.
2165 CE, led Saren Arterius to the Behemoth, and for a time, many believed it served as Saren's flagship.
Playing
However,
Lost
Commander
Epoch?
Shepard uncovered the truth. Sovereign was a Reaper,
How's your patch day
responsible for
been?
the Prothean extinction, and intended to usher in the next Reaper invasion. This realization shifted the galaxy's perspective, making the Reapers an immediate threat to everyone. Sovereign's
would you
plans
been
to
playing?
restart the cycle hit a snag when the Keepers didn't respond to its signal. For its Reaper to call forth its kin from dark space, it needed to access the Citadel to manually activate the array.
Yes.
Aware of the Citadel race's collective strength, a direct assault by a single Reaper would be suicidal. Sovereign eventually discovered the conduit and managed to convince a significant portion of the Geth to ally with it, venerating the Reaper as a god. They manipulated Saren to decipher the location of the conduit using Prothean beacons, deploying the Geth to handle the heavy lifting. By 2183 CE, everything was in place. Sovereign launched a fierce attack on the Citadel, while Saren used the conduit to breach its defenses. Yet, against all odds, Commander Shepard's team halted Saren's advance, and the Alliance fleet managed to obliterate Sovereign. This victory, however, only brought the galaxy a brief respite. Knowing the rest of the Reaper Armada lurked in dark space, Shepard pledged to find a way to thwart their inevitable return. Following the dramatic confrontation with Saren and Sovereign, a new threat arose. Human colonies were suddenly and mysteriously disappearing, their populations taken by the elusive Collectors. Cerberus, a controversial pro-human organization, deduced the Reaper involvement and saw it necessary to bring Shepard back into action to confront this new menace. Throughout the investigation, Shepard unravels a string of dark truths. Humanity, due to its vast genetic diversity, and the fact that it posed a significant enough threat to halt the Reaper, had become a prime target. Shepard knowing this was in large part due to him and his actions against Sovereign. This interest was made evident by the Collectors' relentless focus on human colonies. And most shockingly, Shepard discovers that the Collectors were not always the monstrous entities they appeared to be. They were once Protheans, the last dominant species of the galaxy before humans. But after their defeat, the Reapers grotesquely transformed them, repurposing the Protheans into obedient, twisted pawns of their own grand design. The captured humans are transported to the Collector base, where they undergo a horrifying transformation. They are liquefied and integrated into the construction of an unfinished Reaper. This design is distinctly human, a nightmarish amalgamation of familiar anatomical features and alien machinery. The Reaper's construction method confirms Edie's hypothesis that the creation of such Reapers is a grotesque form of reproduction for their kind. By the time Shepard and the team infiltrate the Collector base, the human Reaper is well underway. Its immense skeletal structure eerily resembling a human's, the scale of this atrocity becomes clear. Tens of thousands of human lives have been consumed to create this monstrosity. However, with determination and a fierce resolve, Shepard manages to halt the construction and ensure the human Reaper's destruction. Though the Collectors are defeated,
The Reapers have repurposed them to suit their needs.
as a direct tool of the Reapers, the Collectors raided human colonies, gathering specimens for a grotesque endeavor: the construction of a human-based Reaper. The use of such intermediaries, while rare, shows the depth of the Reaper's contingency plans and their unyielding commitment to the harvest. A mere 50 millennia prior to the prevailing galactic age, the Protheans, who were the predominant cosmic beings then, faced the Reaper's onslaught. And despite their efforts, much like their countless predecessors, the Protheans succumbed to the overpowering force and cunning strategies of the Reapers. Later, the galaxy would come to find that these cycles stretched back for millions of years by the time humans were a spacefaring race. The Reapers did not harvest all life in the galaxy, only the most advanced, allowing the next generation to have room to evolve, to become the next spacefaring race, and create their own AIs, all without the oppressive masters of the Leviathans. The Reapers saw this harvesting and incorporation into new synthesized Reaper bodies as a sort of graduation, a reward for a species making such commendable progress.
We are the harbinger of their perfection. Prepare these humans for ascension.
The Reapers ensured that no one species ever conquered and dominated the Milky Way again, like their own creators had done. And what was seen as benevolent was how these gods seemed to lay the breadcrumbs towards progress. Many artifacts from the previous generation of advanced beings were placed near the evolving up-and-comers. The Asari homeworld Thessia had relics that would provide a boost in their civilization, and likewise Mars would contain a relic from the Protheans that acted like a test for the human species. First to see if they were advanced enough to get to Mars, then to find the relic, and then to decipher and apply its data, leading humanity to the mass relay orbiting Pluto, which eventually led to the Citadel and inclusion in the galactic community of other alien races. Luckily for us, in this great Reaper Yuga, a few Protheans had managed to escape the Reaper's onslaught in the previous age, thanks to a group of elite scientists on Eos who took refuge in stasis. When they emerged decades later, their intensive research revealed the mechanisms behind their civilization's downfall, and they discerned a way to potentially break the Reaper cycle. Their strategy was rooted in a change observed in the Keepers. These creatures had evolved to respond only to signals emitted directly from the Citadel. Traditionally, the Reaper Vanguard would signal the Citadel, prompting the Keepers to activate the station's mass relay and
no,
commence
this
the
is
Reaper
a
invasion.
buy-to-play game.
Recognizing this, the Prothean experts journeyed to the Citadel using a re-engineered prototype mass relay. There they tweaked the Citadel's signaling process, thereby disrupting the Reaper invasion protocol. Although triumphant in this endeavor, the Protheans faced an inescapable fate. Due to dwindling numbers and other challenges, they faded into
pay up front
obscurity,
and then everything
leaving their mark
after
as a
that,
silent
like all
guardian for
expansions
future
are free.
species. Millennia later, in our age, Sovereign, the colossal dreadnought dwarfing all known vessels, was first found by Eden Haddad's team in the Perseus Vale, and was later studied by Dr. Xu Qian. Notes from the Doctor, stolen in 2165 CE, led Saren Arterius to the Behemoth, and for a time, many believed it served as Saren's flagship. However, Commander Shepard uncovered the truth. Sovereign was a Reaper, responsible for the Prothean extinction, and intended to usher in the next Reaper invasion. This realization shifted the galaxy's perspective, making the Reapers an immediate threat to everyone. Sovereign's plans to restart the cycle hit a snag when the Keepers didn't respond to its signal. For its Reaper to call forth its kin from dark space, it needed to access the Citadel to manually activate the array. Aware of the Citadel race's collective strength, a direct assault by a single Reaper would be suicidal. Sovereign eventually discovered the conduit and managed to convince a significant portion of the Geth to ally with it, venerating the Reaper as a god. It manipulated Saren to decipher the location of the conduit using Prothean beacons, deploying the Geth to handle the heavy lifting. By 2183 CE, everything was in place. Sovereign launched a fierce attack on the Citadel, while Saren used the conduit to breach its defenses. Yet, against all odds, Commander Shepard's team halted Saren's advance, and the Alliance fleet managed to obliterate Sovereign. This victory, however, only brought the galaxy a brief respite. Knowing the rest of the Reaper Armada lurked in dark space, Shepard pledged to find a way to thwart their inevitable return. Following the dramatic confrontation with Saren and Sovereign, a new threat arose. Human colonies were suddenly and mysteriously disappearing, their populations taken by the elusive Collectors. Cerberus, a controversial pro-human organization, deduced the Reaper involvement and saw it necessary to bring Shepard back into action to confront this new menace. Throughout the investigation, Shepard unravels a string of dark truths. Humanity, due to its vast genetic diversity, and the fact that it posed a significant enough threat to halt a Reaper, had become a prime target. Shepard knowing this was in large part due to him and his actions against Sovereign. This interest was made evident by the Collectors' relentless focus on human colonies, and most shockingly, Shepard discovers that the Collectors were not always the monstrous entities they appeared to be. They were once Protheans, the last dominant species of the galaxy before humans. But after their defeat, the Reapers grotesquely transformed them, repurposing the Protheans into obedient, twisted pawns of their own grand design. The captured humans are transported to the Collector base, where they undergo a horrifying transformation. They are liquefied and integrated into the construction of an unfinished Reaper. This design is distinctly human, a nightmarish amalgamation of familiar anatomical features and alien machinery. The Reaper's construction method confirms Edie's hypothesis that the creation of such Reapers is a grotesque form of reproduction for their kind. By the time Shepard and the team infiltrate the Collector base, the human Reaper is well underway. Its immense skeletal structure eerily resembling a human's, and the scale of this atrocity becomes clear. Tens of thousands of human lives have been consumed to create this monstrosity. However, with determination and a fierce resolve, Shepard manages to halt the construction and ensure the human Reaper's destruction. Though the Collectors are defeated and their sinister project squashed, the victory is bittersweet. The looming threat of the Reapers remains, and is even more imminent than before. Harbinger, now without its underlings, intensifies its approach towards the galaxy with the entire Reaper fleet in tow. This sets the stage for a confrontation of cosmic proportions. The Reaper War. The discovery of Alpha Relay's significance sends shockwaves throughout the Alliance. Situated in the Bahak system, it becomes clear that the relay is the Reaper's gateway to flood the Milky Way, allowing them unparalleled access throughout the galaxy. Dr. Kenson, aware of the unfathomable threat it poses, orchestrates a desperate plan to obliterate the relay by crashing an asteroid into it. Though it's a drastic move, the cost of inaction could spell doom for countless lives. However, the Reaper artifact Dr. Kenson's team is studying is more than just an informative relic. It exudes an insidious influence, ensnaring the minds of those who come in contact with it. The very researchers seeking to thwart the Reapers fall victim to indoctrination, a timeless tactic that they picked up from their creators, the Leviathans. the plan to destroy the Alpha Relay is brought to fruition. The Bahak system is decimated, a cataclysmic explosion wiping out the relay, and tragically, the planet Eratot along with its 300,000 Batarian inhabitants. This heart-wrenching decision, though grim, provides the Milky Way with a temporary reprieve, slowing the inexorable approach of the Reapers. However, it also raises questions about the cost of survival and the moral choices war imposes. While many doubted and ridiculed Shepard's dire warnings of the Reaper invasion, not all turned a blind eye. From the shadows emerged a mysterious figure, the Benefactor, who seemingly shared Shepard's concerns. Recognizing the weight of Shepard's assertions, this enigmatic ally, driven by an unwavering determination to safeguard the future of the Milky Way, undertook a monumental endeavor. Gene Garson's ambitious project, the Andromeda Initiative, was bold and idealistic, initially teetering on the brink of financial collapse. The initiative's fate dramatically shifted with the intervention of the Benefactor's funds. Reinvigorated with newfound purpose and resources, the Andromeda Initiative morphed from an ambitious dream into a tangible beacon of hope. Its mission was clear: to transport a diverse mix of Milky Way species to the neighboring Andromeda galaxy and establish a new home far from the impending Reaper cataclysm. Despite the immense challenges, both logistical and technological, the Andromeda Initiative rapidly prepped for its ambitious voyage. As the Reaper threat cast an ever-growing shadow over the Milky Way, the Initiative's ARC ships took to the stars. Carrying roughly 100,000 hopeful colonists, they embarked on a voyage to a new galaxy, leaving behind a home on the precipice of war and the threat of extinction. In 2186 CE, a mere 6 months after the catastrophic destruction of the Alpha Relay, the lurking dread of the Reaper invasion became a reality. Emerging from the obscurity of dark space, the Reapers initiated their galaxy-wide assault on advanced organic civilizations. Their onslaught commenced with the Volar system, deep within Batarian space, and almost immediately, and with chilling efficiency, they obliterated the Batarian hegemony.
Tricabyssal, Celia Nebula, Ethon Cluster, Hades Gamma, all in trouble. We're losing the galaxy fast, Shep.
The pace of the Reaper invasion was breathtaking. In what felt like a blink of an eye, Earth was under siege. Its defenses were quickly overwhelmed, and it became a battleground. Simultaneously, the system's alliance navy, once the pride of human military strength, found itself outmatched and began a desperate retreat. The Turian hierarchy, known for its military prowess, was not spared either. It faced a massive offensive from these ancient synthetic adversaries. Weeks that followed felt like a nightmarish blur. Population hubs across the galaxy were either subjugated or eradicated as the Reapers pushed forth without any hint of mercy. Back on Earth, they methodically decimated the planet's infrastructure, targeting satellites and the long-defunct nuclear missile silos. But it wasn't sheer force that the Reapers employed. They also engaged in psychological warfare. Broadcasts were sent out across the globe, inviting Earth leaders to enter their massive superstructures under the pretense of negotiating peace. However, those that were familiar with the Reapers' insidious tactics understood the grim reality behind these invitations. It is to remove the several heads of leadership across Earth and use them to indoctrinate and subdue humanity, ensuring their complete dominance. In the aftermath of the Geth-Quarian conflict, it became increasingly evident that forging alliances and mutual cooperation were essential for the survival of the galaxy. With every decision and alliance made, Shepard's impact on the warfront deepened. The unification of the Krogan and Turians was a game-changer, not only for their respective species, but for the larger galactic community. Curing the genophage, the sterility plague that almost ended the Krogan, would bring newfound hope and rejuvenated spirits among them, and the presence of Krogan troops significantly bolstered the Allied forces against the Reapers. While the Reapers, on the other hand, saw opportunities everywhere. The long-standing hostility between the Geth and Quarians presented a prime chance to subdue two adversaries at once. By offering the Geth upgrades in exchange for subservience, the Reapers almost turned the tide of war in their favor. However, Shepard's tactical genius and the combined strength of the migrant fleet neutralized the Reaper-infested Geth, liberating them from the stranglehold of indoctrination. What stayed with Shepard, more than the fiery explosions or raging battles, were the words of the dying Reaper destroyer. Its ominous message, stating that the cycle of extinction must persist, hinted at a deeper, cosmic purpose that transcended even the Reaper's understanding.
Things have gotten pretty expensive lately, and I need to generate some additional income.
I stumbled upon.
This revelation, combined with the knowledge that not all Geth were freed, and some did still serve the Reapers, would foreshadow the immense challenge ahead. The invasion of Thessia was a massive blow to the morale of the galactic forces. The Asari were revered for their wisdom and longevity, but were now on the verge of succumbing to the Reaper's onslaught. Thessia's majestic temples and ancient libraries, repositories of knowledge spanning millennia, were now under threat of being lost forever. Commander Shepard and his allies attempted to provide support, but the sheer magnitude of the Reaper invasion, combined with their sudden interest in Thessia, raised questions about the planet's secretive history and what the Reapers sought to uncover. While the battle raged on Thessia, Sanctuary became another point of interest. Originally presented to the public as a refuge from the war, it soon became clear that the facility had darker intentions. Unbeknownst to many refugees seeking safety, they were merely lab rats for Cerberus's twisted experiments in its bid to harness and repurpose Reaper tech. Henry Lawson's ambitions and his disregard for the innocent lives drew the ire of many. When the Reapers attacked Sanctuary, it wasn't just about stopping Cerberus. It was a clear message. No one would be allowed to challenge or control them. The Reaper's swift response was a testament to the potential threat Lawson's research posed, and a stark reminder of their surveillance capabilities. As Shepard and the crew of the Normandy continued their journey, every piece of intel, every skirmish, and every encounter provided valuable insights into the Reaper's strategies and objectives. The need to rally the galaxy's races and devise a coherent plan of action against the Reapers became more pressing than ever. The revelation that the Leviathans, apex creatures of their time, were the creators of the very first Reaper was a significant moment in the galaxy's understanding of this threat. The Leviathans, with their ability to mind control, were once considered gods by lesser species, and brought a profound change to the dynamic of galactic war against the Reapers. With the Leviathans now standing alongside the galactic forces, a rare glimpse of hope began to shine through the seemingly insurmountable darkness. Because the Reapers, for all their might and relentless drive, had underestimated their ancient foes. The ability of the Leviathans to influence and manipulate was a game-changer, as the Reapers themselves fell victim to the very tactics they employed against organics, with the Leviathan artifacts deployed in key conflict zones. The once indomitable Reaper armada found themselves struggling against internal strife, as some of them turned against each other. However, while the involvement of the Leviathans brought a strategic advantage, it also posed a moral dilemma for Commander Shepard and the galaxy's leadership. Aligning with beings who had previously played gods, subjugated countless other species, raised concerns about the post-war landscape of the galaxy. Would the Leviathans, once the dust settled, return to their old ways? Still, with the Reaper threat at their doorstep, the galaxy's inhabitants had little choice but to harness every available resource and ally, regardless of the consequences. Despite the insurmountable odds, Commander Shepard's relentless will and the unity of the galaxy's diverse species set the stage for one final confrontation. At the heart of the conflict was the mysterious power of the Crucible and its hidden capabilities. Its design, originating from countless cycles and improved upon with each unsuccessful stand against the Reapers, culminated in this last attempt for the current galactic cycle. As the final battle raged on, the cost was immeasurable. Countless ships from every civilization fought bravely against the colossal Reaper fleet, each knowing that this could be their last stand. On Earth, ground forces from various worlds faced the overwhelming numbers and devastating power of the Reapers. The sight of the Citadel hovering over Earth, once a beacon of unity and progress, now represented the grim shadow of annihilation. When the Crucible finally docked with the Citadel, a great weight rested on Shepard's shoulders. The choices made would reverberate throughout the galaxy and determine the fate of all life. Would it mean the total destruction of the Reapers, potentially at the cost of all synthetic life? Could they be controlled and put to use for the betterment of the galaxy? Or was there a chance for synthesis, a merging of organic and synthetic, leading to a new step in evolution? The galaxy held its breath, awaiting the decision that would shape its destiny. With this revelation, the entire history and purpose of the Reapers became clear. They weren't simply machines of war or instruments of annihilation. They were a byproduct of a much grander vision, born from the needs to understand and reconcile the dichotomy between organics and synthetics, a cyclical problem that kept reoccurring throughout galactic history. The Catalyst explains that the Reaper's cycle of destruction was its solution to this problem. By storing the essence of these civilizations in Reaper form, it believed it was preserving them, allowing other life in the galaxy to continue to evolve, albeit under their strict parameters. Shepard is then presented with multiple paths by the Catalyst. The first is to take control of the Reapers, directing them using Shepard's own consciousness. Another is to destroy them altogether, but with the potential collateral damage to other synthetic beings, like the Geth and his own AI, Edie, even the synthetic elements in his own body. The The third option, synthesis, aims to merge organic and synthetic life into a new form of existence, erasing the line between them entirely. Each choice carries its own set of moral and practical implications. Destruction might bring immediate peace, but at what cost? Control might allow for a benevolent use of the Reapers, but could Shepard or any other being truly govern such power without corruption? Synthesis is the most unpredictable of all, promising a new era, but radically altering the nature of life as we know it. In this final moment, the weight of countless civilizations, both those that failed in the past and all those striving in the present, rested on Shepard's shoulders. Whatever is chosen will shape the course of the galaxy for eons to come. The future of every species, every individual, hinges on this single pivotal moment. And once that decision was made, the impact on the Milky Way was profound. In the wake of the destruction, the cost is palpable. The memory of the Reapers lingers like a scar on the galaxy, a haunting reminder of the cycle and the sacrifices made to break it. But with it comes hope. The species of the galaxy come together like never before, rebuilding and re-establishing connections severed by the war. Old hostilities are set aside in favor of mutual growth and prosperity. Memorials are erected across planets, and tales of Commander Shepard and the Normandy crew become legendary, passed down through generations as a beacon of hope and resilience. With Control, the galaxy witnesses an era of unparalleled peace and stability, with the Reapers acting as guardian sentinels. The Milky Way flourishes under their protection. Their terrifying presence now serves as a deterrent against internal and external threats, those that might come from another galaxy. While some view the Reapers with caution, over time they become to be seen as indispensable custodians of the galaxy, and their history of harbingers of doom overshadowed by their new role. Under Shepard's directive, they assist in reshaping and reviving destroyed worlds, becoming architects of rebirth. The synthesis ushers in a renaissance of understanding and unity. The hybridization of organics and synthetics creates a society where difference no longer breed conflict. Everyone shares a collective empathy, understanding each other's hopes, fears, and aspirations. The Reapers, too, now possessing the emotions and experiences of the species they once harvested, aid in the reconstruction. Their vast knowledge is shared freely, leading to technological and societal advancements that would have been inconceivable before. The line between machine and man is forever blurred, giving rise to a new era of coexistence. The refusal carries the heaviest burden of them all. As the Reapers finish their harvest, the galaxy becomes silent once more. But the seeds of hope are sown by the past. The lessons from Commander Shepard's time and the recordings left by Dr. T'Soni would guide the next civilization, serving a similar role to the Protheans that were harvested before them. Though this cycle is lost, the fight is far from over. The Reapers may have won this battle, but the war, given enough time and perseverance, can still be won. And so the legend of Shepard lives on, a testament to the indomitable spirit of all life in the galaxy. A beacon that shines even in the darkest of times. The choices made reverberate throughout history, being the one to kill, become the leader of, or integrate the Reapers, those shapers of destiny for countless trillions of lives.
I'll keep trying until I get it right.
The cultists had a philosophy.
Those who share my purpose become allies. Those who do not become casualties.
Nothing in our fight against the Reapers has been that cut and dried.
Because you still have hope that this war will end with your honor intact.
I do.
Stand in the ashes of 1 trillion dead souls and ask the ghosts if honor matters. This silence is your answer.
What's up, Meta Nerds? The Protheans were an ancient alien civilization that vanished mysteriously over 50,000 years ago. Emerging from an unknown planet, they created a sprawling empire that spanned the galaxy and included various other spacefaring species. While much about them remains shrouded in mystery, many of their artifacts, ruins, and technologies have survived the passage of time. Protheans were believed by most species to have built the Citadel and mass relays, unmatched feats of engineering that form the foundation of current civilization through the mass effect field technology. As a result, Prothean artifacts are of immense scientific importance and are considered the collective heritage of the entire galaxy. So let's start by looking at their biology. Protheans are an anthropoidal species characterized by 2 pairs of eyes, each with dual pupils, and 3 pairs of nostrils. Their voices exhibit a similar flanging effect to those of Turians.
For the Empire. For the Empire.
So, hello.
Prothean eyes possess the ability to see through cloaked objects or entities, which may be evidence that they see in a much wider section of the electromagnetic spectrum. Their heads are shielded by a thick, layered carapace, giving them a distinct appearance. The skin around this carapace can range from pale blue, gray to brown, often mottled with muted yellow spots. They have 3 fingers on each hand and 2 widely spaced toes on each foot. While similar to us, the Prothean blood is red. A very unique aspect of Prothean physiology is their experiential exchange system, which operates through physical touch. By touching an object or individual, a Prothean can recall its experiences, allowing them to learn new skills or languages instantaneously. Where information might be sent across the synapse of a neuron, they are able to perform this across bodies and objects.
It was common among my people, imparting experience through touch, the chemistry of life. Complicated ideas could be absorbed in seconds.
That sounds very useful.
We evolved as hunters. Reading 1,000 details in our environment ensured our survival.
Analysis of the limited Prothean genetic material that has been found reveals that they possess a unique quad-strand DNA structure. It's hypothesized that Protheans were resistant to low levels of radiation. This theory is supported by the discovery that Prothean communication towers emitted small but significant amounts of ionizing radiation, sufficient to damage the DNA of Earth organisms like fruit flies and bees. The Citadel served as the Prothean seat of government and the core of their vast galaxy-wide empire. Although the Protheans were originally a single race, their expansion led to the assimilation of other spacefaring species, which would all subsequently adopt the name Prothean for themselves.
We were one empire composed of many subjects. All eventually called themselves Prothean.
This assimilation was not always peaceful. Advanced species that resisted or opposed their integration into the Empire were forcibly conquered and incorporated into Prothean society.
What if they didn't want to?
They weren't given a choice.
Are you saying you enslaved the other species?
Any could oppose us if they wished, and if they had won, they would have ruled. Many tried. None succeeded.
They justified this cultural reconditioning by asserting that if these opposing races were truly stronger, they would supplant the Protheans as the galaxy's dominant civilization. This belief aligned with their idea of evolution, or the cosmic imperative, which posited that the strong must dominate the weak for the greater good. In a universe that didn't seem to care how much things suffered, high-tech civilization was the only thing that could bring about a comfortable life. And even if they didn't know it, the less advanced species only contributed to the chaos of the galaxy.
And what right did your people have to subjugate the other races of your time? You enslaved them.
We dominated them. They were weaker. Our will prevailed as evolution intended.
This philosophy was also driven by necessity. After encountering hostile machine intelligences, the Protheans concluded that all organic races needed to unite for survival. They made efforts to integrate newly inducted servant races smoothly, such as implementing Prothean language tutorial programs, hoping to make their integration into the Empire as easy as possible. Early Prothean architecture was both functional and decorative, with distinct dynasties producing their own unique styles. However, as their extinction neared, architectural designs became simpler. Archaeologists speculate that this shift resulted from the Protheans being preoccupied with fighting the Reapers, leaving little time for aesthetic considerations. Evidence from beacons and the Elatania ruins indicate that, like the Asari, the Protheans were adept at transferring data directly into an individual's mind. They heavily invested in scientific research, a strategy that bore fruit, albeit too late to save their own species. Javik, if freed from stasis in 2186, stands as the only known living source of extensive knowledge about Prothean culture. However, the fact that he shares information that often contradicts the established galactic understanding does make it difficult to verify his claims. This may seem odd to doubt a living, breathing Prothean from the time in question, but imagine if a single person from the past, say ancient Rome, was brought into modern day and asked about how every aspect of their society worked, from technology to life on the furthest cities. You could see experts trusting the archaeological record and other objective sources of information as opposed to one guy's story.
What sort of government did you have, and can you tell me about your religious beliefs, or perhaps the...
We are dead now. What does it matter?
I'm sorry. Studying your history has been a lifelong passion of mine.
When I was born, our empire was already at war with the Reapers. The first thing I remember was seeing my planet on fire.
But most agree he does give a great look into the day-to-day life of Protheans. The society would have certain individuals be designated as avatars or exemplars of specific traits, such as bravery, strength, or cunning.
Among my people, there were avatars of many traits. Bravery, strength, cunning. A single exemplar for each.
Javik himself is the Avatar of Vengeance. This title could even be conferred upon non-Protheans. For instance, Javik refers to Commander Shepard as an exemplar of victory during the final stages of the Reaper War. Prothean society was highly regulated and disciplined, and Javik mentions that he gambled, engaging in games of chance, something that was punishable by death. Weirdly enough, a common pastime among Protheans was a staring contest, which was made more challenging by their 4 eyes, and females used their eyes to initiate foreplay. The Protheans did not pursue romantic relationship with species they considered primitive. Although they found some species, like the Quarians, attractive, mating with them was seen as pointless. Though the Asari do seem exempt from these mating restrictions. While many of the other species that were conquered and enslaved were often eaten, the Protheans didn't seem to have any hesitations about consuming sentient species, and their stomachs were able to process a wider array of chemical makeups. Javik, while drunk, says that dextro amino acid-based races like the primitive Turians and Quarians were just as likely to be a part of Prothean cuisine as primitive humans, as well as Asari, Hanar, Solarians, and Krogan. Hanar were typically boiled or fried, and Solarian liver was considered a delicacy.
He is correct. It was a delicacy in our cycle.
Accounts of which must have been used by rebel recruiting agencies all over the galaxy. What could be more motivating to overthrow their Prothean lords than knowing that these high-tech aliens would callously eat your kids one day? Before the Reaper invasion, notable Prothean accomplishments included the Quasar Fortress of the Tyrannid Vale, the ice canals of Judo IV, and the palisades of the Varam Angelic. These wonders were remembered by the last remaining Protheans through memory shards, handheld devices that stored and replayed memories. And these devices could download new memories from both Protheans and non-Protheans. During the Reaper War, soldiers passed these memory shards among themselves, preserving the stark contrast between their glorious past and their grim present. Though the Protheans did not create the mass relays or the Citadel, they studied developing races such as humans and Hanar, and did build the galaxy-wide communications network using beacons that transmitted information directly from mind to mind. Their data storage devices have endured for 50,000 years, and they employed cryogenic preservation techniques capable of withstanding neutron bombardment. And in these highly advanced structures, they would utilize intricate holographic interfaces, developing a form of VI technology that utilized personality imprints derived from actual individuals, akin to the Quarians' practice of creating ancestor VIs from scans of their forebears. In their prime, these VI holograms closely resembled the Protheans they represented. However, after 50,000 years, the projection quality degraded from clear depictions to indistinct blobs of light. Despite this, the core systems of these VIs remained durable and capable of making accurate assessments by analyzing their surroundings. One significant technology the Protheans developed was the detection of indoctrinated individuals, with this tech being integrated into their VI systems. Despite this advancement in their natural ability to read others, the Protheans could still fall victim to traitors within their own ranks.
But traitors within our ranks, indoctrinated agents, betrayed us, and the Reapers discovered our plan.
The architecture on Pharos and Ilos demonstrate the Protheans' ability to build and maintain enormous cities and arcologies. However, because the Protheans used the Reaper-made technology of the Citadel and Mass Effect relays, this would inspire the look of a lot of their buildings and technology, so much of the architecture appears influenced from structures like the Citadel, which blurs the line between what the Protheans built and what they discovered. And to complicate that even more, some of the cities, particularly those on Ilos, were constructed upon the ruins of the Anusanan, a civilization from a cycle before the Protheans that was wiped out roughly 50,000 years before them, with many worlds having layers of harvested civilizations on them. Protheans were also adept at crafting kinetic barriers. They constructed elaborate Mass Effect defense grids using barrier curtains, and developed a type of personal defense shield that acted like an energy bubble. The shield would surround and levitate the individual who activated it, rendering them impervious to harm but also immobilized, similar to a biotic stasis field. One of the most advanced pieces of tech developed by the Protheans was the Conduit, a miniature prototype mass relay designed to connect Ilos directly to the Citadel. This achievement remained unparalleled by any known contemporary or predecessor race. It's the closest thing anyone ever got to Reaper technology, as reverse engineering a mass relay was considered near impossible. And while detailed knowledge of the Prothean military is scarce, it is known that they possessed fleets capable of defending their empire against various threats, even having things in place from threats from outside the galaxy. The flagship of the Prothean Navy, Penumbra Apex, is equipped with a cannon comparable in power to a Geth Dreadnought's main weapon. Fighter craft within the Empire were piloted by individuals who were solely responsible for their upkeep, something like a knight and their personal horse, and it was considered a great honor to be buried with one's fighter craft. During the height of the Reaper invasion that ultimately destroyed the Prothean Empire, they would develop the Particle Rifle, a powerful assault rifle designed to operate without specialized ammunition or thermal clips. A crucial innovation after the Reapers decimated the Empire's warships that forced the Prothean resistance to create weapons that could function without relying on intact supply lines, creating technologies and strategies to combat their seemingly unstoppable foes. Though their legacy is still largely shrouded in mystery, it would influence and inspire the galaxy's current civilizations, and would provide those species that they once tried to uplift with the only tool to finally defeat the Reaper cycle. So now let's turn to their history proper. The name and location of their homeworld has been lost, and while the exact timeline of their civilization's rise and duration is unknown, at least one of their communication devices discovered on Fel Prime dates back to around 68,000 BCE. Upon achieving spaceflight, the Protheans stumbled upon the ruins of the Anusanon, a spacefaring race of a previous cycle. From these ruins, they learned about Mass Effect physics and developed faster-than-light technology, which they kept secret for centuries. This technological leap gave them a significant edge over their contemporaries, allowing them to expand throughout the galaxy and make the Citadel their capital, using this mysterious alien technology along with the Mass Effect relay network. Early in their development, the Protheans faced a grave threat from a hostile machine intelligence, and to combat this threat, they sought to unite all sentient organic life in the galaxy under the Empire. And all organic races that tried to resist were swiftly crushed by the Protheans' overwhelming power. Eventually, the conquered races assimilated into Prothean culture, coming to identify themselves as Prothean, taking on a term that became larger than any one race. And united under a single cause, the Prothean Empire successfully repelled the machine threat in what became known as the Metacon War.
The Metacon War. We were turning the tide.
Just imagine, your smarter future home, where one...
During their reign, the Protheans closely monitored the primitive species such as the Asari, Hanar, humans, Quarians, Solarians, and Turians. They nurtured those deemed promising, establishing numerous outposts on or near their homeworlds. Their interference and activities were subtle, kept beyond the understanding of their subjects. Eventually, the Protheans intended to offer these primitive species the choice of joining their empire, integrating them into the grand vision of galactic unity. A choice that didn't have to be made until a people group became sufficiently technologically advanced. Once a civilization was sufficiently spacefaring, they could pose a threat to the Protheans, and so their leadership would either be forced to join or be destroyed. While more primitive civilizations were essentially irrelevant, that's why the Protheans worked with them to try and get them up to a higher tech civilization.
It talks about a Thames guide granting us the gift of biotics as a reward for worshipping her.
That gift involved years of genetic research.
The Prothean Empire spanned the known galaxy. They uplifted countless other species to help them join the galactic community.
Uplifted? Like when the Solarians brought the Krogan out of the Stone Age?
Yes. Judging by the dig sites like the Prothean Archive on Mars or here on Eden Prime, the Protheans wanted other species to learn.
And with their success in the Metacon War and their vast empire, they felt they could withstand any machine intelligence, but this illusion was shattered around 48,000 BCE with the arrival of the Reapers. These enemies were far more advanced than anything the Protheans had ever faced. The assault's scale and speed caught them completely off guard. The Reapers breached the galaxy through the Citadel, instantly crippling the Prothean government and disrupting the Mass Effect relay network, isolating Prothean systems from one another. Even worse, records on the Citadel provided the Reapers with access to all of the Prothean census data and star charts, allowing them to track every Prothean in the galaxy effectively. Ironically, the Protheans' greatest strength, their unified empire, became their downfall.
What had been our strength, our empire, became a liability. All races conformed to one doctrine, one strategy. The Reapers exploited this. Once they found our weaknesses, we could not adapt.
As a single governing species led by a series of subordinate races, the Reapers quickly eliminated the Prothean hierarchy, cutting off the head of the snake as it were, by simply killing the leadership on the Citadel. With their ruling body compromised, Prothean forces became scattered and disorganized. Moreover, the Empire's uniform military doctrine proved disastrous, and the Reapers identified and exploited a weakness. The commanders at various levels simply couldn't adapt quick enough, receiving no orders from the top. And as their domain crumbled, they found themselves powerless to defend other races from the Reapers' onslaught. They abandoned their study of primitive species, hoping the Reapers would consider them too underdeveloped for harvest. Realizing that for as terrifying and seemingly merciless as these creatures were, they were not blindly killing all life they came across, but targeting only advanced spacefaring races. There was a desperate hope that some Protheans might survive the Purge and eventually unite these primitive species to form a new empire. While some of these primitive subjects survived and became the dominant species of our current cycle, many races subjugated under the Protheans were not as fortunate. The Densoran, a race that specialized in scientific knowledge to the point that they surpassed even that of the Protheans, believed that they could pacify the Reapers by sacrificing their own children. This desperate act only hastened their annihilation. Meanwhile, the Zatil, symbiotic AIs created by the Za to sustain life on their dying homeworld, would fall under Reaper's control, transforming these assistants into hostile mechanical swarms.
They resorted to implants to enhance their intelligence.
I think I know where this is going.
The AI seized the physical body. It could alter the genetic material at the deepest level. In time, the offspring were molded into a slave race. Few organic traces were left. They were monsters.
The threat they posed was so severe that the Protheans resorted to sending Mazah's star into supernova, obliterating these people entirely. For centuries, the Protheans waged war against the Reapers.
The conflict lasted for centuries. Those that faced the Reapers in the beginning were long dead when I was born.
Fighting fiercely from system to system, world to world, and city to city. They sacrificed entire colonies, abandoning them to the Reapers to buy time to regroup. While this strategy delayed their inevitable defeat, it was extremely costly, stripping the Protheans of vital infrastructure and manpower.
Entire worlds were sacrificed just to slow the Reapers down. Time they spent harvesting a population was time we could regroup.
Slowly but surely, the Reapers conquered, enslaved, and destroyed every Prothean-controlled planet. Desperation drove some of them to offer surrender, but the Reapers' response was always silence. Compounding the external threat, the Protheans faced increasing treachery from within. Indoctrinated Protheans acted as sleeper agents, betraying their own kind, and exposing hidden bases, and revealing the survival plans and contingencies to the Reapers. During this period, the Protheans discovered the cycles of galactic destruction by studying remains of earlier civilizations. They found plans for the Crucible, a device based on designs left by these extinct races, and embarked on constructing their own. Some Protheans believed the Crucible could destroy the Reapers. However, in their attempts to harness Reaper technology, they fell to indoctrination and sabotaged the Crucible, robbing the Protheans of their last hope.
We were sabotaged from within. A splinter group argued we should dominate the Reapers rather than destroy them.
We're Golf Tech, and we're the get you out of the woods faster guys. This is why. Here's how you fix it, guys. The never miss the center of the face again, guys. We're the square your feet, pronate your wrist, fire your hips, guys. Golf Tech, the set.
It fractured our order of battle. Later, we discovered the Separatists were indoctrinated.
After centuries of systematic extermination, the Reapers had killed or enslaved every Prothean in the galaxy, stripping all their worlds of resources, and erasing all traces of the Protheans' existence. The Reapers retreated through the Citadel into dark space and sealed it behind them, leaving only echoes of the once great Prothean Empire. Despite their thoroughness, the Reapers overlooked one world, the Conduit research team on Ilos, whose records had been destroyed in the initial assault on the Citadel, managed to survive this first wave of destruction. In an attempt to evade detection, the facility went dark, and the staff agreed to enter stasis, hoping that this danger would soon pass. Vigil, a virtual intelligence, was tasked with watching over the Protheans in cryogenic sleep until the Reapers had gone, planning on waking them to begin the rebuilding process. But as the centuries dragged on and the Reapers continued their genocide, Vigil's power supplies began to dwindle, putting the cryopods at risk of failing. Following a contingency plan, Vigil began cutting power to the pods of non-essential staff in order to conserve energy.
Eventually, only the stasis pods of the top scientists remained active. Even these were in danger of failing when the Reapers finally retreated back through the Citadel relay.
By the time the Reapers finally withdrew through the Citadel relay, only a dozen top researchers remained. Vigil revived these scientists, who slowly pieced together the grim reality of their situation. The outlook was bleak, with too few survivors to sustain a viable population. The Prothean species faced inevitable extinction. Desperate for any contact with others of their kind, the scientists encoded a careful signal and sent it to the beacons on other planets. Though the chances of finding other survivors were slim, they felt it was worth the risk. The signal contained a warning of Reaper invasion and a description of Ilos itself, a glimmer of hope in an otherwise dire message. The surviving Prothean scientists did not focus on rescue, instead diverting their efforts into protecting the races they had been studying. Races that had been spared from destruction due to their lack of technological advancement. They also worked to uncover the origins and methods of the Reapers. After decades of intense study, they uncovered the connection between the Reapers, the Citadel, and the Keepers. They devised a way to interfere with the signal that prompts the Keepers to activate the Citadel relay. Using the conduit, the Prothean scientists left Ilos and traveled to the Citadel, and there they altered the signal with the aim of preventing the Reapers from reopening the Citadel relay, which would at the very least slow the Reaper advancement during the next cycle. However, they would have no way of knowing if this plan would actually work. The fate of these brave scientists remains unknown, with the conduit portal only functioning one way, and no food or water being available in the Citadel, Vigil hypothesized that they eventually starved to death. As the next cycle was coming to an end, Vigil realized that the Protheans' efforts were not in vain. Commander Shepard's squad discovered Ilos, and Vigil recounted the story of the Protheans' last stand. Sovereign, a Reaper, had attempted to signal the Citadel to compel the Keepers to open the relay to dark space. Thanks to the Ilos scientist interference, the bugs never got this signal, and this gateway was not open. Vigil provided Shepard with a data file that granted temporary control of the Citadel's systems, sharing all he knew about the Reapers and the Protheans' extinction. He also gave directions to the conduit.
The Reapers can't be stopped, not by the Protheans, not by you. The cycle always continues.
When Sovereign was defeated and the Reaper's return was stalled, the Protheans' work finally bore fruit, granting the galaxy more time to prepare. Yet this victory only delayed the inevitable return of the rest of the Reapers from dark space. And while it seemed like the Reapers had eradicated the Protheans completely, the reality was far more insidious. They'd attempted to harness the genetic material of millions of Protheans to create a new Reaper. This gift of immortality from the Reapers to have a species live on in their own Reaper form. However, Edie speculated that this endeavor failed, leading the Reapers to repurpose the captive Protheans to meet their needs. An ironic fate for the proud Protheans, as they were now the inferior slaves.
A quad-strand genetic structure identical to traces collected from ancient ruins. Only one race is known to have this structure, the Protheans.
My god. The Protheans didn't vanish. They're just working for the Reapers now.
Morden theorized that the Protheans were initially indoctrinated, and as this mind control method took its toll on their abilities, they eventually were fitted with cybernetic enhancements. After several generations of cloning, the Reapers decided to extensively rewrite the Prothean genome.
But there are signs of extreme alteration. 3 fewer chromosomes, reduced heterochromatin structure, elimination of superfluous junk sequences.
The Reapers didn't wipe out the Protheans. They turned them into monsters and enslaved them,
effectively transforming them into a new race, loyal to the Reapers, becoming known to the galaxy 50,000 years later as the Collectors. The Collectors were an enigmatic and rarely seen species. Their very existence was doubted by most, seen as mere myths and scary stories told by far-off traders. They resided in the Collector base, a space station hidden in the galactic core and accessible only through the Omega-4 relay. No one had ever returned from a journey through the Omega-4 relay, and no Collector had ever been examined. Thus, the link between the Protheans and the Collectors remained undiscovered. This dark transformation ensured that the Protheans' legacy endured in a twisted form, serving the very entities that once sought to destroy them. While Collector tech is advanced, it bears little resemblance to Prothean technology. This divergence likely occurred as the species evolved independently of the Reaper's genocide, which all helped to further conceal the true connection, with even the most specialized researchers never suspecting that the Collectors and Protheans were related. It is presumed that the Collectors retained partial access to Reaper tech, including husks, a Reaper IFF allowing safe passage through the Omega-4 relay, and equipment protecting their base from the galactic core's harsh conditions. Over the next 50,000 years, the Collectors made periodic forays into the Terminus systems, trading their advanced technology for seemingly insignificant items or small numbers of specific individuals from various species. Following the destruction of Sovereign, the Reaper known as Harbinger began orchestrating the abduction of millions of human colonists through the Collectors. This was part of a renewed attempt to create a human Reaper and initiate the next cycle of extinction. In 2185, Commander Shepard and their team launched an assault on the Collector base, killing all the Collectors stationed there and uncovering the truth about their Prothean origins.
You have failed. We will find another way.
Don't just use the internet, unleash it with ultra-fast speeds. And with Price for Life Internet, you can keep your internet service monthly rates.
control.
Prothean's transformation into collectors shows off one of the darkest aspects of the Reaper's psychological attacks on the galaxy. The Protheans were light-bearing, technology-bringing, sources of hope and testaments to how powerful a species could become, but by turning them into collectors, into mindless drone slaves, it twisted the inspiring message behind Prothean technology. Icons of hope became symbolic of hopelessness. But Ilos was not the only refuge where the Protheans sought survival and stasis. On Eden Prime, nearly 1 million Prothean warriors, along with their commander Javik, were preserved in cryogenic life pods within the bunker facility. Javik's mission was to lead these warriors in rebuilding the Prothean Empire once the Reaper threat had passed. However, before the facility could be sealed, indoctrinated traitors revealed its location to the Reapers. The ensuing attack resulted in the destruction of hundreds of thousands of stasis pods, killing all their occupants. In a desperate bid to preserve the remaining survivors, the facility's virtual intelligence, Victory, initiated a neutron bombardment to eliminate the Reaper forces. This bombardment also severely damaged the facility, destroying the systems that were responsible for awakening the Protheans from stasis. Javik's survival being paramount, Victory diverted power from the remaining stasis pods to keep his pod functioning as long as possible, hoping that future civilizations would recover and revive him. More than 50,000 years after Javik entered stasis, Commander Shepard may uncover and activate his pod. Faced with the destruction of his race and the failure of his mission, the Prothean sees his remaining purpose as exacting vengeance on the Reapers by joining forces with Shepard. During the Reaper invasion of 2186, some of the surviving collectors may be freed from Reaper control through the intervention of an ancient race known as the Leviathans. These awakened collectors represent the last remnants of the extinct Prothean race, embodying the Prothean virtue of vengeance. As they shake off the Reaper's influence, they stand as a testament to the Protheans' enduring spirit and relentless drive for retribution. In many ways, the Protheans are the most responsible for the final resolution to the Reaper threat.
How's the Prothean device coming?
Alliance R&D has officially begun construction. The team has dubbed it Project Crucible.
Though they too received knowledge passed down from those harvested in a previous age, like the Anusanon who came up with the idea of something like the Crucible, it was the Protheans' process on bringing this to life and jamming the Citadel signal with the Keepers, while also placing the embers of knowledge to spark the next generation of sentient species that all helped to rob the Reapers of their greatest ally. The Protheans had prevented the wisdom of the ages from being reduced to zero. The Protheans made sure that there was no full galactic reset, and giving this gift of wisdom to the next generation, pushing some of these advancements into the next cycle, is what would finally deliver the Prothean victory. That's it for their story, and as for behind-the-scenes facts, the name Prothean plays with a bunch of Greek concepts, like the words proto, meaning primary or first, and theos, meaning god. So you could see that as the first gods or coming before the gods, and they even work on the prototype for the Crucible, but of course the name is also coming from Prometheus, the titan who gave the mortals the gift of fire, enabling them to learn the arts of civilization, with arts there meaning all kinds of human-made things, technology in general. And so just like how Prometheus helps primitive humans, the Protheans are looking to advance primitive species, including humans, and even the Hanar refer to them as the Enkindlers, the Firebringers. Prometheus means forward thinking, so much like the role to think past the cycle to help those in the next cycle against the Reaper harvest. And this also fits into themes of the Leviathans and Reapers being the evil gods, like I mentioned in the behind the scenes for those videos. Everyone from Zeus to Yahweh has been theorized by different sects to be evil creator gods, seeking to subject humanity and punishing them whenever they grow too powerful. You can see the story of Eden, wanting to deprive knowledge and eternal life, and especially the destruction of the Tower of Babel, as playing similar themes to the Reapers, who set the guide rails for organic life, making sure they never grow too powerful, and swooping in to destroy them whenever tech gets to a certain level. Prometheus, on the other hand, is giving mankind fire, even at his own harm, doing things like tricking Zeus during a sacrifice so that man gets the meat and good parts, while the god gets the bones and unwanted parts. To the Greek version of the Flood, where Prometheus' son Deucalion creates an ark to survive the Flood. Prometheus and the Protheans step in to save humanity from the cosmic oppressors. While the Prothean statues on Ilos resemble that of the space jockey seen in the movie Alien. And really interestingly, that space jockey species is called the Collectors in the Aliens novel Earthhive by Steve Perry. While in the Art of the Mass Effect universe, it's said that Ilos was based on artwork by Zdzislaw Beksinski. The Prothean pyramids seem inspired by the Sentinel, a short story by Arthur C. Clarke, which later evolved into 2001: A Space Odyssey. Though it was a tetrahedron in the story, they do serve similar roles. You can see in a newscast during the time of the human colony abductions by the Collectors that the Hanar, who worshipped the Protheans, saw this as punishment on humanity for allowing the beacons on Eden Prime to be destroyed. In the Codex image for Mass Effect 2 and 3, they have a resemblance to a husk, particularly in the glowing blue eyes present on the upper body. While it resembles the statues found on Ilos, it doesn't look like Javik or representations of living Protheans. She's back with another banger! She's back with another banger!
Beating the S&P on autopilot, you're gonna wanna check this out. We put money into this account back in March of 2022, right? Just over 6 figures. And you can see that this has been running continuously, hands-free, for just over 2 years. And we're up just over 150%. Now, the beautiful thing about this is these are monthly gains. So this is a conservative account. We're averaging just over 3% per month, but it's not just us that's winning. Here are
Little is known about these peaceful servants of the Citadel, though they are essential to the operation and maintenance of the entire station.
Why are you so interested in the Keepers?
Keepers? I've got no interest in the
Don't get coy. I know what I saw.
What's up, Meta Nerds? This video will be a complete breakdown on the Keeper species, those odd little bugs that keep the Citadel working, even if for a nefarious reason. Let's jump right into it with their biology. They look like a mix of oversized aphids crossed with a praying mantis. Any serious details about their biology have remained a mystery. Any attempt to detain or examine a Keeper results in the creature initiating a rapid self-destruct process, releasing an internal acidic substance, which causes it to dissolve into a mix of protein and minerals in just a few seconds, thwarting any in-depth research efforts. Given this swift self-destruct feature, evading detailed scans or studies.
We ask that you do not interfere with them in any way. The Keepers are essential to the smooth operation of the Citadel. Obstructing their daily work will result in harsh penalties, including incarceration and rehabilitation.
Interacting with them has been deemed illegal by the Council, carrying a penalty of imprisonment, primarily due to the Keepers' indispensable role in maintaining the Citadel.
Technically, we're not supposed to disturb the Keepers. I don't really think my scanning disturbs them, but the authorities might disagree. I'd like to do it more openly, but it's not really worth getting arrested over.
I could help you out. I'm not worried about the authorities.
Interestingly, regardless of how they die, whether due to age, violence, or mishap, their population remains stable. The origin of new Keepers remains undiscovered, leading to theories suggesting that they might be genetically engineered entities, possibly birthed deep in the unreachable heart of the Citadel.
The Keepers do not communicate with other species. It is assumed, however, that the tower houses the Citadel's primary control systems. Many of the station's systems, such as navigation and life support, function automatically. It is believed the Keepers operate those systems from inside the tower's inaccessible core.
Though seemingly silent in ways recognizable to other species, some scientific circles within the Citadel theorize that Keepers might use telepathic imagery for communication amongst themselves. The inorganic elements of their bodies, particularly the components on their backs coupled with an antenna, are believed to possibly synchronize their activities with the Citadel's functions, and the only discernible sounds they produce are insect-like chirps, bearing no semblance to conventional language. The fact that no attempts by alien researchers who study countless other races and have access to powerful AI models cannot figure out what these chirps mean point to it really not being a language, maybe just some odd product of their biology, like a person might cough or grunt. Or it's proof of a theory I'll touch on in a bit, that they are so ancient and alien of a species that their language is utterly unlike anything that exists in the galaxy today. Their secretive nature is further highlighted by their inexplicable activities. They engage in perplexing tasks, like reconfiguring office spaces and even altering the very architecture of the wards, doing it all silently and efficiently, never even acknowledging those around them. Immersed within their tasks, they appear unaffected by the vibrant energy and daily activity of the Citadel.
The Keepers also make frequent appearances in the Council Chamber itself, though they appear to be just passing through on their way to some other destination.
While scientists and those affected by their unannounced modifications may take keen interest in their doings, for most of the Citadel's inhabitants, the Keepers became almost invisible, fading into the backdrop of daily life shortly after one's arrival. Beyond their upkeep roles, the Keepers have been observed managing protein vats, which can be used to repurpose biomass. What they do with these vats and the underlying purpose they serve remains a mystery to all. They have been a part of the Citadel's ecosystem even before any known races established a presence there. When the Asari first stumbled upon the majestic Citadel in 580 BCE, they were met not with emptiness but with the quiet diligence of the Keepers. These beings, without hesitation, worked in tandem with the Asari, facilitating their settlement within the station. Observers at the time likened the Keepers' actions to those of an attendant caught off guard by the unexpected return of their master, as they were scurrying around, hurriedly ensuring that everything was in place. Their silent dedication to the upkeep of the Citadel continued, seemingly unchanged from time immemorial. Many surmise that this behavior dates back to the time the Protheans departed the Citadel, and that they may be the ones that left behind these odd caretakers. Thoroughly intrigued by the mysteries they represented, two enterprising scientists, Chorban and Jalid, were dedicated to unlocking the secrets of the Keepers. Equipped with a specially designed new scanner that could not be detected by the creatures, they began their covert research. While their studies were only in the nascent stages, preliminary data hinted at a staggering revelation. The duo began to theorize that the Keepers' existence might span back as far as the Citadel itself, suggesting an ancient and intertwined history between the two.
You see, we stole some research from our work to make the scanners. We were supposed to work together. I get the data, he analyzes it. What's so special about that? The Keepers are almost impossible to scan, and you can't capture them or get samples. They just self-destruct. After centuries here, we still don't know anything about them. Don't you see? We were the first to scan them, ever.
And the more you pull on this thread, we find the history of the Citadel and its silent caretakers unraveled a deeper and far darker secret than anyone expected. These mysterious entities, long believed to be relics from the time of the Protheans, were unfathomably older than our friends from the previous cycle. And researchers were shocked to find that the Keepers played a central role in the Grim Reaper cycle of genocide, which was triggered when a civilization reaches a certain pinnacle of advancement. Vigil, an ancient Prothean construct, provided startling insights into the Keepers' lineage. They were probably an original species, perhaps the very first one that the Reapers either fashioned, subjugated, or brainwashed. Just like we saw the Reapers change some Protheans into the Collectors, this may have first been done with the original Keepers. Regardless of their genesis, the Keepers were subsequently hardwired for a single, ominous role, to maintain the Citadel as a beacon, enticing various organic life forms to inhabit it over the ages. Once these species settled and technologically matured, the harvest would begin.
The Citadel is a trap. The station is actually an enormous mass relay, one that links to dark space, the empty void beyond the galaxy's horizon.
Don't raise dragons right off the bat. For new players, at the start of the game, don't rush to raise dragons. You might get a powerful dragon.
When the Citadel relay is activated, the Reapers will pour through, and all you know will be destroyed.
The cycle unfolds as follows. The Vanguard Reaper, responsible for surveilling organic growth, played by the role of Sovereign in our cycle, would be the one to emit a signal to the Citadel. Upon receiving this, the Keepers, like a machine, would be driven by an uncontrollable impulse and activate the Citadel relay, connecting it to the void of dark space, the space just outside of our galaxy. The Citadel relay would allow the full Reaper force to pour in and start their galactic harvest. However, the Protheans, in their final act of resistance, altered the Citadel's signal, rendering it unrecognizable to the Keepers. Although this alteration was far too late to rescue the Protheans from their demise, it marked a significant change in the Keepers. They evolved, adapting their very nature. Though still essentially mindless drones, they no longer posed a threat to the galaxy species, and they really were just the eccentric upkeepers of the Citadel. But this would prompt a reaction from the Reapers. Sovereign, the Vanguard Reaper, turned its attention to the synthetic races like the Geth, envisioning them as a more manageable and loyal substitute. After the devastation of Saren's assault on the Citadel, the Keepers immediately set to work, silently and diligently restoring the colossal station to its former glory. Their meticulous repair efforts even superseded those done by the station's inhabitants, subtly perfecting the hasty patchwork carried out in the aftermath of the attack. Though a lingering question remains, from where do the Keepers procure the materials for their relentless renovation? And still, this answer eludes even the most curious of Citadel residents. And throughout the Reaper invasion of 2186, the Keepers remain seemingly unfazed, adhering to their routine tasks with an uncanny focus, which of course is because they have seen this cycle be carried out countless times, for millions of years. While the galaxy was plunged into chaos, the inhabitants of the Citadel took solace in the predictability of the Keepers, their constant activity being the only sense of stability in this galaxy at war. And during the unexpected assault launched by Cerberus on the Citadel, the previously undisturbed tunnels that the Keepers frequented revealed their strategic value. These hidden paths, intricately winding through the station, provided the perfect avenue of escape for Cerberus forces when their initial attack failed.
Cerberus was right here, but they beat feet into the Keeper tunnels when they figured out we were coming.
The fact that the Keepers' routes could be so easily co-opted for military use led many to ponder the true nature and origin of these passages. With the Citadel captured and repurposed by the relentless Reaper forces, its magnificent form loomed ominously over Earth. The once glorious hub of intergalactic diplomacy was transformed into a grim receptacle for the lifeless bodies of human victims, and the Keepers were repurposed too.
You think they're making a Reaper in here? Sure. They round them up on Earth, then send the people up here to be processed.
Now serving the Reapers in the grotesque task of processing the countless human corpses. This is another example of how they were just tools. An organic body, slave to computer-like programming, carrying out any command of those in control of the Citadel. The sight of these once benign and possibly cute custodians partaking in such a macabre duty painted a chilling image of how thoroughly the Reapers could warp the very fabric of the galaxy, molding an entire species into mindless tools. That concludes the breakdown, and the only behind-the-scenes point I want to make, and this will make probably a third of you upset. I know it's not exactly the same, but it's along the line of the synthesis ending playing into the Reaper's hands. From the Zotil AI of a previous cycle, what Sovereign wanted to do with the Geth, and all the other species that we saw turn into husks, they had done it countless cycles ago, literally millions of years ago, altering the unknown original species into the Keepers. There is absolutely no reason to trust the Reapers. Every example they give us throughout all history shows that they are willing to do anything, lie, indoctrinate, or destroy every single threat that gets in their way. In this revision of a reborn new species, a kind of new DNA, a life form that is a synthesis of organic and synthetic, could just be a lie to put everything under the control of the Reapers, turning us all into something like the Keepers. Of course, not exactly the same, but it could just be a new version of their same plan. Let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. Of course, there's lots of specifics we could debate on, but I do come to that conclusion. If you made it this far, please hit that like button. It really is the best way to help me out. Subscribe to see more, and check out these other videos, I'm sure you'll like them. But most important of all, remember, when a superior alien intelligence tries to make a deal with you, judge them by their fruits. But for now, I should go.
We stand a chance if we stay united in our efforts.
Young males have an unhealthy obsession with my species.
What's up, Meta-Nerds? This video will pull from every source out there to fully understand the matriarchs of our galaxy, the Asari. They hail from the planet Thessia, and are often regarded as the galaxy's most influential and esteemed sentient beings. Celebrated for their grace, diplomatic prowess, and biotic abilities, their prominence is partly attributed to their early mastery of interstellar travel following the Protheans, and their pioneering role in discovering and colonizing the Citadel.
We were the first species to discover the Citadel. We were instrumental in forming the Council, and we always strive to be the voice of peaceful cooperation in galactic disputes.
They share a similar basic skeletal structure with humans, featuring 5 digits on each hand and relatively straight feet, making them capable of wearing human armor. And they usually have a blue to purple complexion, with teal being a rare variation.
You were only green when the Thorian made you a clone. The real you was blue, like normal Asari.
Those health problems I said were related to the Thorian control. This is mine. A few months after the Thorian died, my skin pigment changed. My biotic abilities are unstable as well.
Many sport distinctive facial markings and unique color patterns that vary for each individual. These markings can resemble human eyebrows, though Asari don't think of them as such, as instead of hair they have semi-flexible, cartilage-based scalp crests that maintain their shape and don't move like tentacles as some might think. They possess navels and breasts that continue to grow with age, and renowned for their longevity, Asari can live over 1,000 years, thanks to a robust cellular regenerative system, though they do not heal faster than other species, and they can see in ultraviolet light.
What's it like, living for nearly 1,000 years?
Violent. Wars break out. Colonies get destroyed. Mindwar, Eden Prime, Pharaohs. It's been like that forever. You find peace in whatever arms will hold you. Turian, Elcor, Hanar, even had a pureblood daughter. I was the father. It didn't work out. And one day you wake up, your figure's gotten matriarchal, and everyone else is too young to remember how the Quarians looked inside those suits.
But the thing most people talk about is how they are a monosex species. The concept of male and female hold no real significance for them. As Liara Tisonia explains,
My species is monogendered. Male and female have no real meaning for us. We still require a partner to reproduce. This second parent, however, may be of any species and any gender.
I don't understand. Your species can mate with anyone?
Mating is not quite the proper term, not as you understand it. Physical contact may or may not be involved, but it is not an essential element of the union. The true connection is mental. Our physiology allows us to meld with other beings. We can touch the very depths of their minds. We explore the genetic memory of their species. We share the most basic elements of their individual and racial identities. We then pass these traits onto our daughters. It is how we learn to grow as a species and how we develop a greater understanding of other races.
despite this, Asari are often perceived as an all-female race, a view maintained by the Codex and the Galactic Codex, Essential Edition 2183. Because most species had sexual dimorphism, and their Asari's physical traits and voices were more similar to the females of those species, especially humans, almost everybody thought they were all female. And we see that when speaking English, many Asari are using female pronouns like she and her, though some use male pronouns or gender-neutral terms when possible. Titles such as the Huntress and Matriarch, and the reference to offsprings as daughters, further suggest that they saw themselves as females. But again, this is being translated so we can understand it, and so this is all likely just simplification for translation. What's most interesting is that they can mate and reproduce with any sex of any species through a unique form of parthenogenesis. Though they only possess one sex, they are not asexual and do require a partner for reproduction. Instead of doing it the way most species evolved, Asari provide 2 copies of their own genes to their offspring. One set remains unaltered, while the second is modified through a process known as melding or the joining. During this process, the Asari's eyes dilate as she attunes her nervous system to her partner's, exchanging electrical impulses through the skin, though importantly this physical contact is technically not essential, and somehow can be done at a distance. A common phrase before melding is embrace eternity, likely to help focus the partner's mind and prepare them for this bodily and mental trip. The Asari and her partner briefly become one unified nervous system, sharing memories, thoughts, and feelings. The resulting offspring is always an Asari, irrespective of the species or the sex of the father.
I don't think you realize that our kids would always have been Asari. Non-Asari don't always get that we're not taking alien DNA, we're just using it to randomize some of the genetic information.
Remember, because it could be of any sex, of any species, of course including other Asari, they use our word father to describe the one not giving birth.
Though I know my father, if you want to use that term, was another Asari.
Uniquely, Asari are often perceived as attractive to many other species, because they do happen to share physical characteristics of many other species. Like the body shape of humans, the skin color was appealing to Solarians, and the Turians could relate to those head fringes. though Morden suggests that the Asari's cross-species appeal is because of this neurochemical intercourse, this ability to swap not just fluids, but actual mental experiences. And though no DNA is taken from the partner, the Asari uses the meld to explore her partner's genetic heritage, incorporating desirable traits into her offspring and using this genetic map in order to randomize the genes. This randomization would have been necessary to prevent the Asari from suffering from the issues of inbreeding. If they had this much control over the genetics of their offspring, you have the issue of everyone making designer babies, going with the same traits, and so might be so genetically similar that they'd be like siblings, and you'd end up with some awful odd-looking Asari a few generations out. So though they do select for some traits, there is still a large amount of randomization. And interestingly, pairings with Krogan are not affected by the genophage, making Asari partners a potential means for Krogan to circumvent this reproductive challenge.
Blue Rose Amelia, you have blossomed in a tower of glass and plastic. But beauty under glass is untested and weak. Where are your honored dead? To fertilize the ground that you might grow strong. On the rocky plains of Tuchanka, I will build you a garden from the bones of my ancestors.
Why are the two of you on a break?
He's serious. Serious, as in talking about kids. Char is a great guy to date, but for something permanent... Krogans live long lives. It's not like dating a human where you just stick it out for a century till they die. No offense. It made me wonder if he really likes me, or if he just wants kids. He can't have them any other way, you know, because of the genophage.
And as seems a rule in the universe, with all these benefits, there must be some drawback. And this came in the form of the Ardat Yakshi.
I knew it. Nothing leaves a body quite so empty as an Ardat Yakshi does.
You haven't taken steps to kill her?
Why would I? She hasn't tried to seduce me. Her last victim was a young girl, pretty thin, lived in the tenements near here.
This rare genetic defect causes an Asari to overwhelm and destroy her partner's nervous system during melding, and this condition appears predominantly among pure-blood Asari, those born of both Asari parents. That term translates to Demon of the Night Winds, and what's odd is that that comes from an old Asari dialect, though you would think this couldn't be around in ancient times, before they were interacting with so many other alien species. And so though it's said to be more common in purebloods, I think it's a bit misleading. It still would have to be incredibly rare even for purebloods. Like saying something is 1 in a million versus 1 in a billion, it's still a lot more common, but still rare. Having this condition doesn't harm the Asari themselves, and there is speculation on how much the victim suffers. They know the cause of death is brain hemorrhaging, but because the meld is so complete, one can hope that they fade away in some supreme bliss.
My lover spent their last moments experiencing pleasure you can't imagine. Like Nev. She died because her nervous system overloaded with an ecstasy so great she couldn't handle it.
There's a vampiric element here, where after each encounter, the Ardat Yakshi becomes increasingly intelligent, stronger, and more lethal. And they also possess the innate ability to dominate the minds of others.
Morinth was just hitting her stride. Ardat Yakshi who kill leave behind astronomical body counts. It's why they can never be free, and why they're such a great source of shame to the Asari. That's why High Command won't rest until this place is destroyed. They'd never risk a single Ardat Yakshi getting loose.
This condition remains undetectable until the Asari reaches maturity, at which point it would be too late for remedy. Upon diagnosis, affected Asari face a difficult choice. They can live in isolation, often in monasteries, or face execution.
Most of us are grateful to be here. The monastery is a place Ardat Yakshi can achieve peace.
This stringent measure is due to the condition's addictive nature, as this vampiric disease causes an overwhelming compulsion to mate, having a snowballing effect which only makes them stronger and makes them want to mate even more, being increasingly able to mentally force people into this, and strong enough to not be denied. Though they're born with this, the Ardat Yakshi are seen as a disgrace within Asari culture, and has gotten so bad by the 2100s that there is often widespread Asari prejudice against purebloods.
I am what is sometimes called a pureblood. Though no Asari would ever be cruel enough to say the word to my face, it is a great insult among my people. It is possible Benezia's partner was embarrassed by their union. She may have been too ashamed to publicly acknowledge me as her offspring.
Samara, being a pureblood, notes that the condition is as old as the Asari species, and in ancient times, some cultures revered the Ardat Yakshi as gods of destruction. Though with the advent of space travel, the Asari realized that public awareness of this condition would incite panic and mistrust among other species, and so they tried to keep it hidden. The Ardat Yakshi confined to monasteries channel their energies into productive activities. Their creations often become well-known commodities in the galactic market, such as Asari honey marinade and luxury items like Asari honey mead. Some residents are granted strictly supervised visits to Thessia, believing that they have the right to know their homeworld. However, this is all under the matriarch's approval. If there were any behavior issues, one would be deemed unfit to leave the monastery. Samara's 3 daughters all suffer from the lethal version of the Ardat Yakshi condition, and where Morinth chose to embrace her condition, Valeria and Rila opted for a life of peaceful seclusion. However, there's an even less understood and less severe cases that are thought to be more common, some researchers putting it at 1% of the Asari population. And proof of just how powerful this ability can be, despite being 500 years younger than her mother, Morinth is able to match Samara's power. Morinth believes that this is the genetic destiny of the Asari.
I am the genetic destiny of the Asari, but they are not ready to reveal this. So I must die. You are a disease to be purged. Nothing more.
But it seems obvious this isn't true because all Ardat Yakshi are sterile, and there's no evidence that they could keep living forever if they just kept mating with others. Which, speaking of, the Reapers could get off easy if Commander Shepard risks a ride on this roller coaster. Though a much more pure version of this melding can be seen with Liara melding with Commander Shepard multiple times to help him understand the visions from the Prothean beacons. And Shiala melds with Shepard to upload the cipher into his mind and aid in interpreting the visions. According to Liara, melding minds signifies a deep connection, often reserved for friends and family, and can even be a way of saying goodbye. And so, though connected to sexuality, it does not have all the connotations that other species might attribute to this. It's unclear whether the ability to meld minds is innate from birth or develops during puberty, and if so, when this occurs. Liara is 106, relatively young for an Asari, and she first melds with Shepard. Valeri's Ardat Yakshi condition, which involves a dangerous melding, was discovered by age 42, indicating she had attempted to meld at least once, and Morin's condition was also identified by her 40s. Asari pass through 3 major life stages, each marked by distinct biochemical and physiological changes. The maiden stage begins at puberty and is characterized by a drive to explore and experience. Young Asari are often curious and restless, commonly working as dancers in bars or as mercenaries during this time.
We need to get our daughters working earlier, not spending their wild maiden years stripping or in merc bands. When I started talking about making new mass relays ourselves, they laughed the blue off my ass. So now, I serve drinks.
The matron stage starts around 350 years, though it can occur earlier with frequent melding. This stage is marked by a desire to settle down and raise children.
It's fun to join a mercenary guild or dance at bars for a few centuries, but eventually you hit the matron stage, you know? Then you get your back tattoo removed, let your scalp go back to its natural blue, and settle down with someone dependable.
The matriarch stage begins around 700 years old, and here they often become community leaders, offering wisdom and guidance from centuries of experience.
Gabi, have you ever seen recordings of Liara's mother, Matriarch Venezia?
Yes? What about her?
And remember Samara, the Asari Justica?
Where are you going with this, Kenneth?
Have you noticed that older Asari women seem to be a bit more ample? Do you think they just keep growing?
Kenneth!
I think I'll spend my sunset days in an Asari retirement home.
If I don't kill you first.
Though keep in mind, these stages can commence whenever an Asari feels she has reached the appropriate level of maturity. While each stage comes with a strong biological inclination, individual choices can vary wildly. Some maidens prefer to stay close to home rather than explore. Some matrons chose career over family, and some matriarchs show little interest in community involvement. But those 3 are the typical norm of the billions of Asari across the galaxy. Due to their extensive lifespans, Asari possess a long-view perspective that is uncommon among other races. When faced with new species or situations, they favor prolonged periods of passive observation and study instead of immediate action. They are untroubled by investments or decisions that may take decades or even centuries to bear fruit. The seemingly inscrutable decisions made by matriarchs often reveal their wisdom when their meticulously planned strategies do finally come to fruition. In similar relations, this long-term perspective translates into an unspoken policy of centrism, where the Asari instinctively strive to maintain a stable balance of economic, political, and military power, often not being pulled too far in either direction between two other debating species. Councillor Tivos, the Asari representative to the Citadel Council, embodies this approach. And traditionally, the Asari extended their influence through cultural dominance and intellectual superiority. They welcome newly advanced species into the galactic community, confident that their ideals and beliefs will gradually permeate the existing culture. Among themselves, the Asari favor communal and consensus-driven attitudes, often choosing to live in shared spaces aboard starships, even when there are other options available. And though I mentioned this before, that they believe that the offspring inherits the best qualities of the father through that melding of their genes, technically that is largely anecdotal. We have no confirmation from other species like Solarians, for example, that could look into this and dispute it.
Scientists say all that stuff about us getting genetic material from the father is crap. Seems like I got a bit of his mouth, though.
But because the offspring is always Asari, they do encourage interspecies relations, seen as a way of increasing the genetic diversity and cultural insights of their offspring. Over centuries, if one's family line remained pure blood, it wasn't just the risk of the Ardat Yakshi, but more so that it showed a provincial mind, someone that must have never left home and explored the stars.
If both parents are Asari, then nothing has been gained, or so conventional wisdom would hold.
The ones that did travel were keenly aware of their attractiveness and comfortably expressed their sexuality, often seen as exotic dancers in venues like Chora's Den or Afterlife.
Not really my kind of place, but there sure are some spectacular views here.
And even David Anderson acknowledges that, despite their political and military might, their elegant and feminine appearance sometimes makes it difficult for him to remember that they were the strongest alien species out there. An extra benefit to the owners is that this is often a form of martial art. It might look provocative to onlookers, but they're often going through specific combat moves. And Alec Ryder even jokes that they could double as bouncers. Their natural sensuality and ability to mate with any species have led to rumors of Asari promiscuity, often fueled by misinformation or simply wishful thinking. In reality, Asari understand that mating outside their species means they will almost certainly outlive their partners, except in the case of Krogan. This forces them to adapt their philosophical long view in relationships as well, cherishing the time with their partner rather than dwelling on the inevitable loss.
Mom was a matriarch herself. Dad was near on 1,000 when the truth came out.
On the Citadel, an Asari and her Turian companion debate over a souvenir.
The fish. Fish have nothing to do with the Citadel. Besides, it'll be dead in a couple of years.
The important thing is to embrace the time that you have to spend with a fish.
Oh, is this the lifespan talk? I'm not having the lifespan talk.
Similarly, the memoirs on Ilum Kiosk, an Asari and her Solarian stepfather consider a memento for her mother, highlighting their aging differences. And so you often see them raising their daughters alone, both outliving their interspecies father. Many of them celebrate Janiris, a springtime fertility ritual named after Janiri, the guide of the goddess Athene.
That's Janiri, Athene's guide who brought enlightenment to Thessia long ago.
And you don't see the resemblance?
This festival marks the beginning of the new year, and Asari create wreaths of flowers to share with their friends and loved ones. Similar to some other Citadel species holidays, Janiris has been embraced by other species living in Citadel space. Some choose to renounce their most personal possessions and become Justicars, members of an ancient order bound by a strict code. They seek to right wrongs made within Asari space, often using severe measures, including lethal force.
They're a monastic order. They've given up their families and possessions to follow their code. Most of them are on some lifelong mission, but they'll always stop to deal with any injustice they encounter, which can be a problem. In some ways, they're a lot like the Spectres, undertaking personal missions.
Spectres are authorized by the Council. What do Justicars represent?
What? That's like, I don't know, a good human metaphor. They represent their code, our code. It's closer to a religious group than a legal branch. No law-abiding Asari would question a Justicar's orders. Nobody becomes a Justicar for personal gain, and they die before breaking their oaths.
It is uncommon for a Justicar to leave Asari territory, as doing so could provoke diplomatic issues with other species. Although all Asari are natural biotics, some opt not to develop their biotic abilities. This choice excludes them from military service, yet it carries no social stigma. Their politeness involves maintaining a slightly wider personal space than humans, staying just beyond easy melding distance from one another. Another odd detail is that they typically have 2 meals a day, compared to the often 3 meals and tons of snacking of humans. And they also have the galaxy's single largest economy, underpinned by extensive trade networks and social connections. Craft guilds in cities like Ceres and Amali dominate the market for advanced biotic tech, and with their long view of history, they have a near monopoly. But with their significant political clout, an embargo imposed by the Asari would be catastrophic for the Alliance. The primary Asari religion, Siari, translates roughly to all is one, and embraces pantheistic beliefs. Followers hold that the universe is a single consciousness, with each life form representing a facet of this greater whole. Death, in Siari's belief, is the return of one spiritual energy to the universal consciousness, which will eventually inhabit new mortal vessels. Reincarnation is not a direct belief, rather, the idea of spiritual energy rejoining the cosmic whole and later being redistributed. Siari gained prominence after the Asari ventured beyond their homeworld and discovered their unique ability to meld with almost any other life form. This ability is seen as evidence that all life is fundamentally connected. The Siari priestess view their mission as fostering unity among diverse fragments of the universe's awareness, which can be seen in different interpretations of everything from Gnosticism, Taoism, Hinduism, and Buddhism. Before Siari's rise, Asari religions were as varied as their political views. A common theme was the belief in gods who existed separately from the world, overseeing it from above. The most enduring of these old beliefs is the monotheistic worship of a goddess Athame. Athame, like the Asari, embodies the triple aspects of maiden, matron, and matriarch. They often invoke the goddess in oaths, though this may be more of a cultural habit than a reflection of personal faith. And the names of some of these gods survive. Elune was revered as a physician and was believed to have been taught medicine by Athame. The rings of Elune are holy relics that inspire modern Asari to acts of compassion and healing. Athame was the highest god, the goddess of prophecy and fate. Janiri was the goddess of seasons, storms, and agriculture. Krala, the demon of misfortune. Corinth, the goddess of war and hunting. Lucin, the servant of Athame who imparted essential knowledge of civilization to the Asari. Tiares, the goddess of death, guiding spirits on their final journey. Tukria, legendary archer from Thessia's Iron Age. And Tavura, goddess of love, sex, travel, and law. The Asari governmental structure, known as the Asari Republics, is expansive and decentralized, as the concept of a unified world government came late to them. For centuries, Thessia was a patchwork of loosely connected republican city-states, akin to the ancient Mediterranean city-states on Earth. Their culture, which highly values consensus and cooperation, saw little need for a larger governing body, and instead of hoarding resources, they engaged in open trade. And not warring over different philosophies, they sought mutual understanding. It wasn't until the information age that these city-states began to integrate, evolving into what was called an electric democracy, voting through their form of internet communication. Unlike other species, the Asari have no political or formal elections, aside from their council representative. Instead, they have a dynamic legislature where citizens are included. Policy debates occur around the clock in official chat rooms and forums, moderated by specially programmed virtual intelligences. All policy aspects are open to debate at any time, though the opinions of the matriarchs, the revered and experienced Elder Asari, are given the most weight and are almost always deferred to. Today, the Asari often serve as the diplomatic arm of the Citadel Council, and have been instrumental in discovering and integrating many races into the galactic community. Around 200 BCE, the Asari first made contact with the Elcor, and helped establish regular trade routes to the Citadel. In 2184 CE, the Asari cruiser Azendes encountered the